Empowering humanity, supporting unity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PAZMESA Playhouse, where we come to play, slay, and lay the way for us to be our truest selves. I'm Janie, the mindfulness coach.
And I'm Angel Santiago, also known as Life Coach Angel.
And PAZMESA means peace within. Paz means peace. Mesa in Greek means within. And it also means table. And in Spanish,
mm-hmm.
Exactly. So peace within, peace table, PAZMESA is a pulse. We want to help people drop into the power and the wisdom and intelligence of LOVE, which is in the heart. And we have been working on becoming our most authentic selves, which in turn has unlocked the power of peace within. And that's really my mission with the work that I do personally and with Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do so, because this is the place where we provide mindful content for living and loving. And the PAZMESA Playhouse is a new podcast, so thank you so much for tuning in. And if you love it, if this resonates with you and you know other people that can benefit from some of the stuff that we're sharing about what works in our lives, because nothing that we share with others isn't something that we don't embody ourselves on a daily basis, or at least aim to. That's the goal. That's another thing. We love wordplay. We're going to be picking on words, and we love acronyms, and peace is really what this movement is about. PAZMESA Pulse is about the peace movement. Rise Above TV is about creating a mindfulness movement. And what does it really mean to live mindfully? The more you do that, which we'll break that down, you will realize that peace involves a lot of different virtues. And you can kind of remind them of what the acronym is if you want to.
Yeah, in the last episode, if you saw the first one, we talked about what is peace. We kind of broke that down. We talked about the importance of bringing peace to the table, meaning whatever table you're sitting at, whether that's any relationship really, because life is all about relationships. We're in a relationship with everything. We're in a relationship with money. We're in a relationship with others. We're in a relationship with work. If you have a belief system about something, that's the relationship that you have with it. So it's either going to be harmonious or it's not. Yeah. And so the idea is that the tools that we're offering you here is to help you have a more harmonious experience or relationship with whatever you're in a relationship with. And we've been talking about peace. So the first P of the acronym peace is patience, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, because that's where we left off last time. And really quickly, the whole acronym is patience, equanimity, acceptance, compassion. I like to say compassionate curiosity, and equality. So these podcasts, you were talking about relationship. I like to call it real relationship, REAL. I'm an acronym geek. That's a whole other thing in itself. But the most important relationship is the one that you have with yourself, because how you are with thyself and how much you're willing to understand yourself and have mercy for yourself, that will end up impacting your ability to extend it to another person. So however deep you have it for self, you'll have for others.
Well, and I would even add to that is self with a capital S. Meaning your higher self, with essentially is your relationship with God, with the universe, with your spiritual essence. So that's the first relationship. Then is the relationship that you have with your human side. Then is your relationship that you have with others. So it's like 1, 2, 3. Higher self, lower self, everybody else.
Everybody else.
And then the better quality your relationship is with God, whatever that is to you, the better relationship you're going to have with yourself as a human being, the better you'll relate to others, and you'll be able to come from a place of peace, because again, that's one of the essence or one of the qualities of God.
Yes.
Which is peace.
Yes.
So you'll be tapping into that part of you.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be bringing that out into the world through the human vessel that you are, as you connect with other people.
Yes, and the more you feel yourself living in alignment with that higher spiritual self, this is the self that is accountable and responsible for the choices that they're making in life. At some point, those of you that are watching this show, most likely you're on a self-discovery journey, self-exploration journey, healing, just learning and growing. And that's one of the things that we want to encourage here and inspire others, is to remain curious like a child. And some of these words that we were talking about, and how he was tying it to God and what love is. There's a worldly construct and an idea that is tied to the word love. And so we're going to bring a deeper meaning to what love actually is. There's a guy who has a really great organization called Go Love Now, and he's also an acronym geek. His name is Scott Goyette. And we go into schools and we teach kids and parents about mindful living and self-care practices and compassion and these things, breathing exercises, things to help you de-stress. And that's one of the things that when he was talking about LOVE, L stands for listen, observe, for the O, V, voice, and E, empathize. You have to really understand the power of your voice and how are we using it.
And you got to be able to do those things for yourself first.
Yes.
If you can't do those things for yourself first, it's going to be really hard for you to do it with everybody else.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind. And one of the key, well, here's a question for you. How are you sleeping at night? How are you sleeping at night? Do you have good sleep? Is it a hard time for you to sleep? Do you struggle sleeping? Do you don't get a lot of sleep? And the reason I ask that is because when your day is done and everything's quiet, guess what gets really loud? This right here. And so sleep requires peace. And so if you're not at peace within yourself, within your mind, you're not going to have peace. You're not going to have peace throughout the day. You're not going to have peace at night. So that's really, really important that we understand that. And what we're talking about here, the mind, it's the body, really, mind and body. Mm-hmm. Because the mind and the body are in basically within this vehicle, right? This vessel, right? So if you don't calm this down, you talk a lot about the nervous system. If we don't calm this thing down, you will not allow for the essence that you are. For example, I studied psychosynthesis psychology or spiritual psychology. And the founder of that psychology says, there's a part of you that already knows everything you need to know. Mm-hmm. Everything there is it already knows it. It's just waiting for you to get out of the way.
Yes.
So the more you can kind of like clear all these fears, all the things that prevent you from experiencing peace, the more the essence of who you are, the more that godliness, that divinity is going to come through the vessel into this 3D experience.
And that's why a lot of the work that we do in terms of going back to mindfulness, and then we'll kind of touch on patience and everything, because you have to have patience with yourself as you start to unlearn a lot of the mechanisms that you learn that were there to protect you, but now they're very hyperactive and overactive. And so unless you understand these subconscious autopilot behaviors, this is where the work really is getting to the origin. Why do you think what you think? What you think you will feel. You have an emotion and then you have a thought, or you have a thought and then you have an emotion. We are illiterate in this world, or at least in our country here in the United States, when it comes to being able to express ourselves. Like emotional intelligence is something that we're all going to need to learn if we want to create peace in the world. So we lack an ability to communicate effectively and honestly with ourselves and with other people. We don't really know how to be real. That's why the God self, the higher self, is the realest, truest you. That then later you got all of these things happen. You have a bunch of memories. And a lot of those memories have like traumatic experiences. And a lot of us from 0 to 7, that's when our core belief structures are starting to be basically shaped, which then is impacting your perception. Your relationship with self and other people and God and the world at large is coming from whether or not you felt safe from the get-go. So this is about reestablishing safety with the body, because when the body feels good, it's telling you something. And let's start getting curious about what that information is, because then you feel more empowered. And when we start to learn how to master our emotions, first we have to be able to put words to them and be able to say what it is that we're feeling. That alone starts to calm the nervous system down. When you're doing it with the intention to work yourself down instead of work yourself up, you'd be surprised at how you can start increasing your energy levels. Because when you love thyself and you care about yourself and you start doing this work, your vitality increases, creativity increases, prosperity comes more easily to you. There is still effort, but there's an effortlessness to life when you start aligning with the truest part of yourself.
So what is patience? Like by definition, I literally just Googled it, right? By definition, patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay trouble or suffering without getting angry or upset. Okay. Now, there's a quote or a piece of scripture that I wanted to share that perfectly illustrates that. And it says, it's from Proverbs 15:18. Hot tempers cause arguments, but patience brings peace.
Yes. And one of our master teachers is Yeshua. And one of the things that he's known for is being a very effective communicator.
And very patient.
Very patient. He was able to sit with anyone. And because he understood how to listen with his heart and his soul, he learned how to sort of remove judgment and biases. Whether he felt them or not, they were not in the center of the conversation with the person. And he was also always able to see the best of them, and the rest was just sort of this distortion and confusion and illusions and delusions that come from some ideologies that are making you feel like you're not worthy, that you're not lovable, that you're not enough. And that's one of the coolest things about Yeshua, was like he really understood what it meant to be a friend. And that's what this is about. We're here to help you understand how did you get so good at being your adversary? Well, guess what? You have the ability and the power if you want to. You have to have the desire and the, and then it takes some tenacity, but that's what we're here for, to encourage you, inspire you to stay on the path of getting to the truth of what you really are.
And it's funny that patience is defined as acceptance, because acceptance is another one of the is the A of the acronym of peace. They're all connected. And what causes us to become very impatient a lot of times is what we think should be happening right now. It's not happening how we think it should be happening, and it's happening differently. So it's creating resistance. You're resisting what is. That's why it's so important. All these practices, contemplation, meditation, being in silence, quieting the mind, calming, observing the mind, however you want to do it, are all practices that help you be present in the now, because everything is happening exactly as it should be and in divine timing. So what are we fighting? What are we really resisting against? So if we don't connect with that God self, right? We don't have a spiritual life. We're not really connecting with the divine timing. We're not really connecting with what is. We're not really connecting to the present moment. So we're always getting in the way. And again, if we live from the carnal self, right? Carnal, desires, trying to fulfill the flesh, is never going to be enough.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love what Jesus taught was the whole bread of the earth, bread of the heavens. The feeding the earth, which is this body, will never be enough. Right. You're always going to be hungry because you're feeding like short term. I'm thirsty. Let me drink. Short term. Guess what? You're going to be thirsty again. When you go into that bread of the heavens, right? That spiritual nourishment that nourishes from the inside out, it nourishes everything.
That's what I love. PAZMESA really was inspired by the power, the healing power of like what love actually is, the wisdom of love, because it encompasses a lot of words that to me are virtuous, which ironically, again, going back to Yeshua, it was a way of being. He wasn't trying to get you to follow a religion. No. He didn't have a church, that he was like operating out of. He was just in the streets and he was just being himself. He wasn't going and trying to like, I gotta save you with this fear behind you and something bad's gonna happen to you. It's like, no, all is well. All sin means is to miss the mark. That's what's so neat about this existence is we have what's called free will. This is a place of polarity and duality, and part of where patience and peace really lies is when you start getting into the deeper understanding of why duality and polarity exist in the first place.
Well, and when you transcend that.
That's what I'm saying.
When you stop seeing it.
That's what I mean. You
right.
have to see it and understand both sides and know how it gets played out in thy own self, and then that eventually when you really stick to this, and with every breath you take, you're like, let me tell you what really healed the shit out of me is when you start asking God to heal you of certain things. My biggest thing was, it made the most sense. I was like, show me and heal me of all of my ignorances and my hypocrisies. And he took me into all my traumas to show me at the core what was really happening. And there's these 5 wounds: humiliation, rejection, betrayal, injustice, and abandonment. And I was asking God to show me the seed. Where is the origin really of my anger and my sadness and my pain? Earlier you were talking about when things don't show up the way you want them to. One of the first emotions, typically when you're not in acceptance and you're in resistance, you're not willing to surrender to what's showing up.
Right.
And it's okay, that's natural. But eventually when you start learning the mind things that we understand and the emotional practices and meditation and all this stuff, you start to build the tool belt that you need in order for you to be able to see through all of the BS, experience the feeling, but see the lesson. You can see
Right.
what it is, what it's teaching you, and
can
what
see
you get
the
to
truth.
flex.
You can see the truth within the difficult and challenging experience.
Yes.
You know, that's what really, that's the wisdom comes in.
Yes,
You draw out
exactly.
that honey, that sweet part of it. And just think about it. I'll ask you this question. Think about the last time you were in a place where you were like, why is this happening to me? How the heck am I going to survive this? How am I going to get past this? I feel like I'm drowning. I feel like I'm under all my circumstances. And you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. Think about one of those moments, because I've had many. I'm sure you have too.
A lot of them.
And I'm sure you have too. But think about one. Think about a really challenging one.
And you rose
Right?
above it.
Now, did that moment destroy you or did it grow you? Chances are you're probably saying it grew you as you look back. Well, as you find yourself in the next moment, because it's going to come, you find yourself in the next moment, the result is going to be the same. It's not going to be any different. So, Steve Jobs in an interview, he said, you can only connect the dots looking back.
Yeah.
He said that.
Because you can find
that's
patterns.
true, like hindsight 2020.
Exactly.
But then I add something to that. If the dots connect when you look back, that means the dots are already connected as you look forward. The question is, can you trust that? Can you trust that this dot that you're in is the perfect dot that in fact, you co-created the circumstances of this dot with God to get you to that next dot.
Yes.
And so can you trust that? And so that's why I always say a lot of our resistance is not with what's happening. It's that we don't have faith. We don't trust that this moment is happening for our highest good.
Yeah, we're disappointed. And then it feels like punishment.
Well, because
That's
to the
another-
mind it does,
Right,
right?
that's what
but
I mean.
But in
the
the truth,
soul self.
like, this is for you, dog.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to grow you. Like,
Yeah,
trust me.
And that's what's so neat about this work, y'all. And I swear, there is a piece of you that is connected to God. It has never left you. It is not severed. You cannot destroy or create energy, and you cannot cut light. God is light, Light, and that's another acronym. I threw it out there, I think, last time. Living in God's harmonious truth. He talked about harmony. Harmonize thyself. What does it mean to harmonize?
It's integrating both light and dark
Yes.
within yourself.
Yes.
That's the yin and yang within you, two becoming one
Yes.
in you.
In you. And Jesus says the kingdom is within. Go within. And there is nothing that's keeping us. We have a lot of dogmas and doctrines and there's a lot of religious trauma, to be quite honest with you, but there is this fear and judgment and guilt that has come along with God's love. That's oxymoronic. That's two polarity things. God is love and peace. It's about fulfillment and sustenance. And when you start aligning your words and your thoughts and your actions with virtuous words like integrity and
Authenticity.
and yes,
vulnerability.
We're bringing vulnerability. We're making
All
we're-
the
we're-
EDs.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna say we're bringing it back, but no, we're literally reframing and re-identifying and reorienting ourselves as a culture with the word vulnerability. That is our superpower right now. Is you cannot
not a weakness.
you cannot have authenticity without vulnerability and humility. That's like how are you going to be real? And we have been disconnected from what that even really means. We're really afraid to be our own selves, and that's another part of this. We want to encourage.
Because we don't want to be rejected. Like if I really
Yes.
show up as me, are people really going to accept me? And so being accepted and being liked becomes more important than being the truest you that you can be.
Yes. And you know what's neat is when you do discover that and you start to be more of that and you're more fearless, you'll find other people that are willing to fly their freak flag like you. You know what I'm
But
saying?
in order for that to happen, there's certain things that we must do. Now, Janie,
Yes. Yeah.
what has been, like, if we can each share what has been the most helpful thing for us in terms of developing patience? What's something that they can really use? What has helped you become more patient?
Okay. First, I was looking for the real superfluous, like, things that were happening in my life, like just those things that were occurring like consistently, where I would kind of like
React. Like,
kind of just lose my cool, or just like, you know what I mean, just feel just a little bit like
lost your temper.
Yeah, I lost.
Hot
Yeah,
tempers.
yeah, that exactly. There's a show, what is it called? The Family Guy, and Peter's like had a segment. You know what really grinds my gears? And you know, another way to say that is, you know what really like sets my nervous system off into the sympathetic side? You know what really gets me in a fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, or one of those. And when I was looking for the easiest, like, targets, I guess you could say, that were like robbing me of my peace. I was allowing certain scenarios to put my nervous system into that space, which meant I was asking for adrenaline, cortisol, and norepinephrine. And I knew that that's not really what I wanted to do. And that's when I started geeking out about, oh shit, like, I'm the chemist of my blood. If you understand how your nervous system and endocrine system work, you start to realize. So I just started to take more accountability. So I would say on the road is the biggest one. I wasn't a big road rager anyway, but I did kind of like, ooh. And think about it. We spend a lot of time, some people spend a lot of time on the road. So that was a great place for me to flex, and that's kind of where it started. And breathing, you have to, there's a really great, it's an acronym, but I didn't think of this one. It's called S.N.A.P. S-N-A-P. Stop, take a breath, and notice what you're thinking, feeling, the felt sensation, what is the body doing, and then also notice what's going on externally. You can go in, out, doesn't matter, but just take data. You can't react and be taking data at the same time, so that alone gives you the pause, and that's what I love so much about PAZMESA, because pause sounds like pause, and PAZMESA is about taking that moment to pause before you react. We're about teaching you how to respond. It's the ability to respond is responsibility. I don't know where I was going down anyway. But
the
anyway.
acronym?
Yes.
S-N-A?
S-N, thank you. A is accept. Accept and allow what it is that you're thinking, feeling. Just let it be what it is. It'll run its course if you give yourself the space, the patience.
Well, don't they say that it takes like 90 seconds for an emotion to run through your body?
Exactly. I think we said that last time. Make note of that. Breathe. And then P, proceed with kindness. Or just proceed, with love, or with just some rationality.
That's awesome. It's true. You have to take assessments, constantly take an assessment, constantly noticing. But that, in order for you to do that, you have to be able to be present and observe what's happening with grace and without judgment. Now, for me, I've done that. But what got the tool for me has been meditation. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing about meditation. Most people that come to me and say, well, I've tried meditation and it doesn't work. Well, the reason they say it doesn't work is because they want to stop the mind from thinking. Now, here's a question I have for you. Go turn on your car and expect the engine to not fire, the pistons to not fire. That's ridiculous. If you turn on your engine, the pistons are going to fire. That's what the engine does. Well, the mind thinks. You're not trying to be a monk. I'm not trying to be a monk. Are you trying to be a monk? No, we're not trying to be a monk.
We do have monkness in us. We
right,
all
but we're not
have it, but we're not
monk.
trying. It's not about trying anything. Yoda talks about that.
So,
it's just doing.
So if you get to that level, you will completely have no thought. But we're here trying to live our lives and trying to have better relationships and trying to have better experiences. So, like, the trick is, can you just observe the mind? Like, let the mind do its thing. Can you sit there, close your eyes, lay down, sit down, breathe like Janie's saying, and just simply watch the thoughts go by. Like cars going down the road. When you see a car going down the road, I hope you don't do this. Like, oh my God, why is that car white? Why does that car have 4 wheels? Why does it have rims? Why does it have that fender on the side? Well, you don't start obsessing about the car that goes by. So don't do that with your thoughts. Yes. Your thoughts are no different than your lungs breathing, than your breath. Your thoughts are no different than your heartbeat. Your heart beats. Your mind thinks. You don't think they're like, oh, I'm obsessed with my breath. Or, oh, I'm obsessed with my heartbeat. but we're obsessed with the thoughts because we think they're us.
Yes.
And it's an organ like any other, and it's gonna think. It processes information.
That's what it's built
That's what it's
for.
doing. So
And that's where, yes, the observer part.
just observe it. Just sit there and observe. Now here's the scary part. Everything quiets down, and all those scary thoughts and all those scary feelings that you've been avoiding come to the surface, and that's what you're really avoiding. You don't want to feel or see any of that. So you go work out, you go shopping, you drink, you do whatever you can. You become a workaholic. You just do whatever you can to avoid yourself.
Yep, distractions.
You have to face yourself. Think about darkness. When you go into a closet full of darkness and you turn on the light, it's not scary anymore, is it?
Nope.
So when you sit there and observe yourself, you're turning on the light to the darkness within you,
Yes.
which serves a purpose because both sides, light and dark, are actually helping you become the best you. They're just perspectives of who you are. And if you're only focusing on the good, you're living a half-assed life.
Exactly.
You got to be able to live a full life, and that means light and dark.
Full. We need you to be full.
So meditation, that's like number one key for you. Meditation
Yes.
and prayer, those are all amazing tools to be able to
Yes.
develop patience
Yes, because I will say
and trust.
it is in being still and just like he said, letting the thoughts do its thing, but it's a practice. Eventually it'll be quiet enough and you'd be surprised at what comes through and what you can hear and the guidance that comes through. And when I first started meditating, for some people it comes pretty, it's something that's not too difficult.
Right?
Everybody's different. I'm grateful that it was something that I dove right into, and there's beautiful things that you can see and experience and feel, but you do have to be brave enough to allow the stuff that's been sort of suppressed and repressed to make its way, to the forefront.
100%.
And that kind of ties into a piece of scripture that we shared last week. It was a Gospel of Thomas, and Jesus talks about like what you don't bring forth, what is within.
Right.
It'll destroy you.
Check the
and what you
episode
do.
and you'll see the quote because
Yes.
it's very good.
See numero uno.
But I think it's time for a break, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages.
This episode is brought to you by Big Cock Coffee. We get you up in the morning. The I Evolve podcast is a podcast focusing on the evolution of an individual who is in continuous motion towards their best self.
Thank you so much to our sponsor. Welcome back, everybody, to the PAZMESA Playhouse. I'm Janie, the mindfulness coach.
And I'm Angel Santiago, also known as Life Coach Angel. And today we're talking about patience, the P of the acronym PEACE.
Yes, and you were going to read the definition of virtue because one of the famous quotes, it actually comes from a poem.
That's probably the most known.
The most known is patience is a virtue. And I feel like right now, most of humanity has kind of lost a sense of what that actually means, to be virtuous and righteous. Not this like self-righteous, this arrogance, just this a human being of integrity and somebody who really embodies, equanimity, which is one of the words in our peace thing we'll end up touching on later. So let's touch on virtue. Like, what is the definition of virtue?
Well, especially now because we live in a society that we want everything like now, yesterday. Like I saw this comedian that was talking about like Amazon Prime.
Oh yeah,
and he was like, people want like Amazon yesterday. Like
He's
Amazon
like,
yesterday.
Yeah, Amazon now.
Now. I
and
want it
he's
in
like,
my hand.
I want it in my hand.
I don't even want to think about it. Just
I want you to know what I want before I
know.
want it, and I want it
now.
here now.
So that's the society that we live in. So we don't have patience, and not only that, but the attention span has decreased more, shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yes, that's why meditation is so great and doing breath work and just
it
look
increases
into the things that helps you really develop and have strong gray matter. And there's ways
Very
that we
many
can,
benefits.
there are so many things that we can do to help our brains be nice and healthy and strong for the long haul. It's not just what we're eating, but it's what we're watching and what we're doing, what we're thinking. And so these practices that help you tap into that PAZMESA, that's going to be that thing that's going to bring you that energy to give you the vitality. And by the way, right now, immunity is everything. And that's why we really care about this. We want y'all to be healthy and strong and vibrant.
So she's talking about patience being a virtue. And virtue, by definition, so virtue is a behavior showing high moral standards. a quality considered morally good or desirable in a person. A good or useful quality of a thing or a person. That's really all it is. That's what a virtue really is. And think about it, how good of a quality it is to embody patience in your life. Think about what a difference that would make in your relationships, at work, just for yourself. When you're learning something new. You know, people get really impatient when they're learning something new. They're like, they want to be good at it now.
Yep.
And it's like, but you just started.
Yes, and that's why it's so important for us to reframe mistakes and help, especially when it comes to children
and failure
and doing things sometimes just for the grade versus doing it for something that you really love. And that's another thing. Part of PAZMESA is realizing what brings you joy. And how much joy are you experiencing on a daily basis? How much are you smiling, genuinely smiling? And how much do you laugh? Like, when was the last time you had a really good, hearty laugh, you know? All of these things are actually impacting our immunity.
Well, you're either you're either focusing on negativity or the problem, or you're living in positivity and solutions. Like, you either see life, like life is a boomerang. Like, it just, whatever you throw at it, it comes back to you.
Yes.
So if you're throwing out there negativity and impatience and anger, that's what's going to come right back to you. So, so what boomerang are you throwing out there, and what's coming back to you?
Yeah, and you know what? That's great, because you kind of bring me back to last time we were talking about road rage and stuff. And we were talking about, you know, when you go out on the road, how many people are actually fully present and really aware and really paying attention, and how many people are actually sort of in their own world. And then you can kind of expect then for people to kind of come in and like cut you off, and maybe they don't have a lot of patience, so now they're expressing that to you. When I started going out believing and thinking that all is in my favor, including on the road, and being that I was expressing so much patience and so much kindness and letting people cut in front of me all the time, my reality started reflecting that back to me.
It's a mindset shift.
It's exactly. So your attitude is impacting how you're going to be taking in data from your experiences. And so we have conditioned ourselves and trained our brain for quite some time now that it's become our standard default. Mindfulness is about being able to live in the now, non-judgmentally.
And that didn't happen
present
like that.
Yeah.
It took time.
Yes, being present on purpose. And what does it mean to be present? That's another thing that we'll really touch on next time, is like, when you know basically when your mind and your body is here, you know how sometimes when like your body's here but your mind's going somewhere else, and somebody's talking to you, and then you're just kind of like, you don't even know what they said for a little bit. Or when you're driving and then you haven't been thinking, and all of a sudden you're at your exit.
When you lose your keys or you lose your phone, you don't know where you put it. It's because in the moment that you put it down, you were not present with it. You were somewhere else, and you're like, now you have no idea where your phone is or where your keys are, because you weren't like, you were somewhere. This was like you were like somewhere else. You put your keys down, you have no idea because you weren't there.
Yes. This is about living on purpose, intentionally, and the more that you do that, the more you can be, you know, experience life in a much deeper, more profound way, because there's all kinds of things that we're missing when we're not present. And that's when the magic in life really starts to well,
that's the only place
unfold.
the magic happens, is in the present moment.
Damn, that's the quote of the day.
So what do you want? What's the last? What do you want to tell them?
Okay, so maybe a journaling thing. Maybe it's something that they can consider. Write down what and who gets you bothered.
What are you reacting to throughout the day?
Yeah, what is that? And then make a list of what those things are. Yeah, bullet points. And then pick one and work on that one for, I dare say, a week, because I was going to say a day. But if you're cool with doing like 7 days, notice. That's another thing. Being the optimal noticer.
Well, do the snap.
Self.
Do the snap to that one thing.
There you go.
To that one thing.
Snap that one thing for 7 days. Okay, and what's super saucy is that you'll start to actually improve your scales with patience. Because like, which one is winning right now? And the only way to do the other is to like flex these muscles in real time. You have to train your brain, just like at the gym. You want like badass biceps, but you don't want to do any work to get them.
Yeah, you can't just do one curl and then expect your bicep to grow. You have to keep showing up.
Yeah, you got to keep showing up. So you just keep doing it. And what's super neato is that eventually you will end up creating a new neural pathway, and that thing won't even be a thing for you. And then you just start knocking them out one by
One at a
one.
time.
And that in itself is self-care. That in itself is meditation. Being aware of something that you normally do, and then you choose to go against the
question it
grain.
and go against it.
You do the complete opposite, just like a game. Make it a game.
Yeah.
That's why when I work with people, or even with myself, the more we can make it sort of practical and playful, it's about bringing levity to brevity. I say that all the time. That's my jam. That's what I'm here to do, is bring levity to brevity, because we're all in this pool of mushy goo together, of all the things that we learned that are no longer serving us, not only as individuals, but it's not serving our relationships. It's not serving the planet. And so PAZMESA is when you ignite the power of peace within, it ends up bleeding and pouring, we'll say pouring like water, into your partnership, into parenting, into your workplace, like you were saying, everything. So the work that you do, we just honor you greatly. Anybody who is out there doing some healing work, or you got rid of a habit, like high five to you. Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Be patient with yourself. It takes time. And as you're on this path, you're gonna stumble. You're gonna fall again, because we're human beings, and so you need grace and you need forgiveness. It's like, it's all right. Get back up. Try again. It only develops your resiliency. And then the last thing I'll do is, like, for those of you that are watching and like do this tool, but also I'll put a link on the comments for like how to ease into meditation.
Okay.
That way, because that's also really important, because that's also, meditation is going to help you in anything else that you do, because it's making space here, and it's a way to renew your mind so that you can access your true self, your God self. Okay, so I'll put that link in the comments, but I really, really hope that this resonates with you, and that you take these tools and apply them to your life.
Thanks again for hanging out with us here at the PAZMESA Playhouse, the place where we offer you pieces of peace
for your everyday life.
That's right. And of course, if this is something that you feel your friends would enjoy, be sure to share and subscribe to our Rise Above TV.
Comment, ask us questions.
Yeah, send us questions, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our podcast channel, where we provide mindful content for living and loving. Thanks again, and peace be in you.
PAZMESA Playhouse is a Rise Above TV production. To be a part of the mindfulness movement, visit riseabovetv.com and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channel. Be sure to like and follow us on social media.